we're back on our weekly cadence now. We took a week off for Thanksgiving and getting back to it. Podcast room's starting to come together. We got our sign now. I'm
Nice
liking
shirt.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're just listening, look at our YouTube channel. We've got a nice little neon sign behind us. I think it makes it look pretty cool. So today, we haven't discussed this. Sometimes we'll outline things, but today we're going to go ahead and talk about anti-aging when it comes to lifestyle, training. We haven't outlined anything. We're just going to kind of open it up and chat. We have these conversations at home all the time. Kate and I are in our 40s now. I wouldn't say 40s. I'm 40.
Almost 42.
She's 40. You're 41.
I'm
You're
winning.
Yep. She's winning. But as we're aging through this and training and things change and then the kind of the thought process behind training and what we're trying to accomplish with it changes too. So a lot of it is we feel good. We just did a workout together on not a ton of sleep. Our daughter was up all night,
Oh, no.
and we still feel pretty good. And we're pretty much still like we're in our prime. We feel great when we train and do all this. But a lot of what we're doing now is trying to like ride that wave for as long as we can, rather than shoot for this real high trajectory. Like where we're at is pretty great. Like we really enjoy like our lifestyle, the training we do, and so I think just getting into how to maintain that, how to slow that aging process down. Modalities and things we've tried, things that we know other people are doing, our thoughts on that. Yeah. So I'll let you kind of kick it off if you want, and I'll jump in. And I know you have a lot of thoughts on this. So
Yeah. So I think where I'd like to start is just how I've changed. And we keep talking about like the mind stuff, but it really is everything, like how I've changed my perspective on training, nutrition, and just literally like living life that I think has really helped me feel better overall. So a lot of it is just not being so extreme. I'm just an extreme person by nature. It motivates me. I want to do like um something very challenging that it just sounds like, oh, I can almost barely do that, and I want to do that because it kind of wakes me up, catches my attention, and I need a lot of stimulus to stay engaged. So I was I guess maybe I wasn't always that way until I got into fitness, and then that just seemed to kind of work for me. And I would do, I think if you've been listening to the podcast, I did fitness shows on and off for about a decade, and then not anything super extreme with endurance training, but I've run 10 half marathons and a couple sprint tries, but just things that are like more extreme in nature motivated me. Um, that includes like dieting. So, fitness shows that are pretty extreme in the lifestyle that you have to maintain to prep for a show. And then it's really hard to get off that. So, a very extreme, very, um, just kind of like a diet of restriction and binging. And so like, restricting during the week, binging on the weekends, restricting, binging, and then that kind of came along with the same thing with exercise. So when you're doing fitness shows, most of the time your coach will have you do 2 a days with cardio plus with a weight training in there. So I'd be doing 3 workouts a day. Then I started adding on yoga, which was great, but then that's almost kind of like 4 little workouts a day. Then you're working out all day. And then I would just collapse at night. Then I would drink 2 of these and have 2 ephedra when, even after ephedra was illegal, I'd find a way to get it. Um, and I do 2 ephedra a day. So basically, I'm propping myself up with caffeine and maintaining all this exercise base on very little calories. That's just not sustainable. So by the time I got to the weekend, I'm looking for like any escape I can find. So then that would be extreme. Like, okay, I'm going to have this meal, and then once I have a drink or two or just have a taste of pizza, I'm eating a ton because it's just not
Then you
sustainable.
can make up for it during the week by not eating much.
Yes.
Yeah,
So that's that. Yeah.
no, I'm joking.
No, I mean, and when you met me, that's what I was doing.
Sure.
I remember, we went out to eat a couple times and it was okay because it was on the weekend. And then I met you at Chipotle and I brought my tuna pack and like carrots. And at the time, you're kind of like, that's cool that you're doing that. But also, like, I've never met anyone that would bring a
Yeah.
tuna pack to Chipotle. And I had a lot of willpower in those situations, but it just wasn't working for me. It wasn't and working for me, I mean, I didn't feel at peace. I always just felt at odds with myself, which wears you out. And that wears you out, that tires you out mentally, that tires you out physically.
There's no sustainability to that.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So I was just kind of feeling burnout. And
You have to have a very definitive goal to halfway wrap your head around torturing yourself into that constantly.
yes, yes. And that was the only thing that would
You
motivate
can't settle
me.
into like a lifestyle
Yes.
that way.
To get back into shape.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I don't really enjoy. I think fitness shows are a neat accomplishment. I didn't enjoy them. I don't enjoy walking across stage in front of a lot of people. I'm really awkward. But it was the only thing that would motivate me if I'm up on stage, practically naked in stripper heels, to follow a diet very strictly. So when I couldn't really like motivate myself to kind of get my diet in check and be disciplined, I'd say, okay, well, I'm going to sign up for another show. But that kind of brings me to living that lifestyle well after shows were over until I was 39. And something about turning 40, and I don't know if I think you kind of felt the same way. It's a big milestone, and it was in my mind that I really wanted to kind of take care of some things I have been avoiding, and one of those was um, extreme dieting, binging, just any sort of extremes at all. And I had tried to work on it, but it's something I really needed to mop up and learn how to be more moderate. So that was a big piece for me. And along with that went just like me offering more grace to myself mentally. And so even like today, I think that really plays a huge role in why we didn't feel so crappy. We wake up, we're tired, we're like, it's not the end of the world. We're tired. We eat healthy. We've gotten pretty decent sleep up until last night or 2 nights. Maybe there's bad sleep, but overall, we try to live pretty healthy. So this isn't going to make or break us 1 or 2 nights. And it's really how you frame it in your mind. It's really your perspective. So you just make it not that big of a deal and you don't dive into this dark mental hole, and I really think that's 90% of it with, these little hiccups here and there. Um, but then along with the dieting, I let go of the 2 a days. My workouts now, for the last couple weeks, I've worked out 7 days a week. I was always like, definitely everyone needs one day off. But if one of those days is like 15 minutes on the C2 bike and 15 minutes of yoga, or 2 of those 7 days is a recovery workout like that, it actually feels really good right now to move 7 days. I don't get really tight. I don't get I just kind of loosen up and stretch every day, and it's kind of like a good run through for me, mentally and
Yeah,
physically.
I wrote, it was probably 5 years ago. I wrote a blog post for our gym, it's still floating around out there, that basically talked about that shift in more frequent training, but like smaller, more digestible chunks. So some people will come in, I'll see people train 3 or 4 days a week and they'll like do a class and then they'll like hammer a bunch of stuff at barbell, or they'll do like, 3 level 2 workouts that are just really hard and intense. And it's not that frequent and they can't even train the next day. Where a longevity approach is more staying in a rhythm every day, just having your body get used to it. Ideally, it helps if you're doing it at the same time every day, so your
Yes,
body is
that's a
like
big.
in tune to like the rhythms and habits, and sleeping at this time, waking at this time, training at this time. All of that really helps. You feel good consistently. You'll get sick a lot less uh, from my personal experience, you'll sleep better, you'll feel better, more on an even plane than if you're hitting this real extreme, resting and recovering. Now, if you're training for a competition, especially really high end stuff, you have to have really hard days, sometimes multiple workout days, followed by full recovery days because you have to train so hard.
You have to prepare your body for that extreme.
But it's a different approach. So I'm actually taking a CrossFit course online called the Training and Aging course. It used to be called the Masters course, but they separate athletes into two different goal categories. One is a competitive, and then one is a wellness. And then, so like a competitive athlete, you're going to focus more on like skill specific things that you're more likely to encounter in competition. You're going to push harder when you train. You're going to train less frequently sometimes because you have to train so hard. Where a wellness, you're going to do actually more variety. Um, Break it up, keep it fun, and then the trajectory is lower. So you're trying to stay here or slightly go up over a long period of time rather than like you're here and here. If you're a wellness athlete, you're going to be a little more conservative in your approach. So you're not going to try and hit home runs with every workout. And a lot of that, it doesn't mean not pushing hard. It means maybe not going for massive lifts when we're doing a strength session. So staying with something you're not in jeopardy of failing, or even instead of doing the handstand push-up option, you're going to do like the seated dumbbell option. And you're going to live to fight tomorrow where say you could get through that handstand push-up workout, but every time you do it, your neck is blown up and it hurts. And like you have to take 2 days off once you're done. You're doing that workout because your ego's not tied to, winning a competition. It's a training session. So I do think though, because at least for me personally, and what I see with a lot of athletes in the gym, they're kind of a hybrid of both. And you are as
I was
well.
just going to say that. I think people should
Yep.
let themselves kind of move in and out of that.
And I do.
At
I
different-
completely
yeah,
do.
at
I always
different
do.
times.
Yep.
Like, and again, this is on aging, when we're in our 40s. I try not to have more than like maybe 3-4 events in a year that I train for. And this year I want to do the open. Then I'd like to try to get a little fast for a summer shred. Then, maybe we have like a body biz photo shoot we usually do once a year. And that might be about it this
Yep.
next year. But I'll kind of let myself go in and out of that. So I really have been taking a break on lifting heavy, especially with Olympic lifts. And I'm just started into that this week, and I'm sore. My shoulders are sore, my mid back's sore, I'm beat up, but I can feel how my performance is kind of like
Starting to ramp up
yes,
now.
yes,
Yep.
yeah. Even though I'm really tired, I can just feel my strength and my recoveries. It's kind of coming back as I get into workouts, and that's just conditioning. That's almost just conditioning your mind to hurt too,
Mhm.
and not to be scared of lifting heavy, to feel that weight on you and not be afraid of it. So I really believe that people should kind of in our situation should let themselves go in and out, and I kind of feel like for the most part, and I'm talking like general population, it might not just even be in our gym, but even maybe in our gym membership, our general population doesn't challenge themselves enough. Maybe takes themselves too seriously, like, okay, um, I don't want to do that contest, or I want to do this competition, or I don't want to try for this because I'm afraid I won't just knock it out of the park.
Mhm.
And when I'm running every 5K I've ever run, I love to run. I've done a ton of 5Ks over the years. I've never ever once expected to win. I've never won, but I still show up and try. But I think people take it more seriously when they're doing CrossFit for some reason. If it's your first competition, you're probably not going to win, but you can go play and go have fun.
Yep.
So I think letting yourself go in and out of that also keeps you engaged. It keeps you trying. It keeps you reaching. And I always check out, like, if we're doing a benchmark workout on Saturday, I always check out like what I've done in the past and try to just get close to that. 80, 90% of the way there. And even if that's just once a week, that one workout I kind of save up for, and that's the one I usually go for broke on,
Mhm.
unless, there's some other extenuating circumstance. But yeah, I think for the most part, just not killing yourself every workout. But then I also wanted to talk about outside of like training modalities and nutrition. I've been much more basically liberal during the week and more conservative on the weekends, I would say, with what I'm eating. So if I want it every night, I usually have something sweet during the week, which I would just never have in the past, where I'm probably eating 30% more during the week and probably 50% less on the weekends because I don't feel that need to binge. And it just feels a lot more free. But then, I wanted to talk about like other things we do, supplements, whether it's vitamins, minerals that we take, and then really just to keep our whole body healthy. Um, I'm really big into mind, body, spiritual healing. So there's a spiritual healer I see every other week, an intuitive healer, and she almost acts as my therapist. And that really helps me. She'll also kind of work massage in there, but it really, really helps me recover. It helps me kind of offload some mental garbage, which helps me physically. And this is something that I think, is often overlooked, that body work. So there's all different types of body work. There's Reiki, there's just good old fashioned
So
massage.
rein this in a little bit though. Like, where are you? You're talking about all these things. Like, what? Like, if you're giving advice to listeners or to yourself, like, how does this fit into like your day? And
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah,
this
yeah.
is something that I keep on a regular cadence, bi-weekly. So I'll get a massage every other week along with talk therapy. Once a month, I get Reiki work done. So it's energy work for my body. And there's all different practitioners, even right around here. There's a Reiki center off Fifth Avenue that I've been to. That's great. And then I see affiliate PT almost every week for dry needling. So these are modalities that a lot of people overlook and think, okay, that's too expensive. I don't want to invest in this. I don't want to invest in that. But when you get injured, that injury oftentimes costs, 10x what, staying healthy through kind of taking care of your body with this little extra care will cost. And
You
not to
pay
mention,
almost any amount of money to get out of that too.
right,
Yeah,
right, right.
yeah.
Not to mention just
Once
feeling
you're
good all
once
the
you're in
time.
there, yeah,
So,
yeah.
I just wanted to say, like, outside of workouts, there's a lot of self care. We stretch, we foam roll, we see affiliate PT. Brandon will see the healer every now and then. You'll kind of go through phases of that where you do it more like you did it a lot leading up to your boxing match, and then kind of took a little break.
The daily meditation's the big one
Yes,
that if
yes.
you can fit that in and that's going, I mean, that's gained a lot of traction and popularity and in the last few years just in general and a lot with CrossFit. I know like Ben Bergeron over at CompTrain talks about I mean, he's really big. He does a daily he has a daily like yoga and meditation practice. When I'm doing that every day, I feel it is a literal reset. If I can do it midday when all the stress of the day, it's sort of like build up on you. Um, I'll go in there, I'll meditate for 20 minutes, almost like pass out when
Hmm.
I do it. And when I kind of come out of it, it is I'm going to use an analogy that probably only people our age will know, but it's like when you reset like a Nintendo game or something. It's like your whole, it's like turning the computer off and on. Like, I'm like, whoa, the channel I was on is completely changed and I feel way better, way different. And all of that is gone now. And I get away from it because if I'm even away from it for a week, I'll think that won't happen. Or it's like, oh, this is going to be a pain in the ass. I've got all these things to do. My mind's racing. Once I do it, I'm reset. And again, this is just, when it comes to like longevity and anti-aging and things like that, it's the stress that really starts to get to us because what happens, especially at our age where we're like in our peak earning potential kind of age, peak responsibility with small kids age, all of those things are kind of culminating. The stress level is kind of going to be at an all-time high. Like we've got a lot of irons in the fire. We're doing a lot, so we have to do a lot of these things to
Yes, there's
offset.
an yes, yes, and that's what I was trying to say,
Yep.
like, there's a back end to that, that it's almost like the paperwork you need to do
Yep.
after the day's done, and that's a good point when you're talking about, like, "Hey, I'm out of it." A lot of my clients will think they fall asleep,
Hmm.
but if you can get into a deep meditation, you have the same wavelengths, the same you're producing, like, those wavelengths, like, with REM sleep.
Yep.
So it's very restorative, very regenerative to your mind, to your body. It's very healing.
Yeah.
And
No,
and
I can
there's
feel it. I mean, I was not a believer in it at all, and it was something that you really pushed me to get into, and it was a process, for sure. And then it's like something that I've okay, like you'll tell me sometimes too. I'll get out of the habit of doing it, and you're like, hey, go up and you should go meditate, and I'm like, okay, and then I'll get back into it. And I would say I'm not the best at staying. I'll be on it really consistently every day, and I'd say right now I'm more like in the 3 or 4 day a week range that I'll be able to get it in. But even that helps. It's better, and it hasn't like I haven't lost the habit. But it's one of those things I need to get back on, and like, hey, I need to build that into my day. Like as soon as I get home, no excuses. Even if it's right before bed,
yeah.
it can even work then too, and kind of ease you into going to bed and all of that.
But just like workouts, I think it really helps to have a set time every day. Like I meditate every day, no matter what,
Mhm.
almost. Unless we're on vacation or it's a weird day and I don't want to say, "Hey, we can't go on this excursion. This is my meditation time."
Sure.
But every day at like 1:15, 1:30 before I pick up my son, I lay down and I usually tell like a lot of moms at that time to do that because you're going to drive to pick up your kids, things are going to get crazy. You have drop-offs, you've got sports, and that's usually around the time where a couple things will happen. Your energy level drops. You're going to want to eat a bunch of crap because you're relaxing. So if you wake up around 6, usually around 2 p.m., you're going to feel like a blood sugar drop. And you're going to get a little like anxious, angry, irritated. That's the time you need to meditate. That's also the time that like feelings or emotions are starting to come up. And it really doesn't have to do with your day. You might say that you're agitated about the day, but it's old stuff. And it's a perfect opportunity to get that out. So if you're a full time, if you work full time, that would be like, it might have to be before bed, but ideally, if you could get that in real quick before dinner, like go straight upstairs, lay down for 20 minutes, do that, if not anything else before bed. But it just really helps kind of offload that stress from the day. And I usually would give myself like 5 to 7 minutes to let my mind's like race around with daily to-do lists or this or that, or just kind of offloading junk from the day. And then I let myself drop in.
Yep.
And it will happen if you relax. If
Yep.
you're anxious, thinking, okay, when am I gonna drop in? When am I gonna it really doesn't work. You really have to relax and drop in. But I will say that's probably like if you take away one thing today, that would be the one thing that what is it's free. You can do it anywhere. To meditate daily for 20 minutes, it really, really helps. And then you can just kind of feel what your body needs and how let your body be the guide to navigate you with with health and wellness, but also in life. And that's where I will see people as they age, like Brandon's talking about. We're talking about like we're at our peak stress level and responsibility level. A lot of the stuff we do, we don't need to do. Do you really need to renovate this part of your house? Do you really need to do this? Do you really need to do that? You can kind of feel like,
Sure.
okay, what am I just
You're adding
creating more?
unnecessary. You're
Yes.
adding and creating chaos, and
Yes.
you start to get addicted to
Chaos.
chaos. And I
Yeah.
have to like do this
Yes.
project.
Yeah.
I think a simple one, just as we're kind of going through this, that this year is just drinking less alcohol. This summer I didn't drink much at all. Uh, I wanted to train for that fight and took it pretty seriously, and just the training more so than the actual event of the fight. It was I wanted to get back into like full-time training like a fighter, and you know, going in there and doing fighting and sparring on a regular basis is really hard on your body. And I wanted to perform each time I went in there. And that was more important than the actual fight. I made myself back into a fighter again, lifestyle and everything completely. And drinking doesn't fit with that well. So I'm not a weekly drinker. I don't drink, I don't go out for beers, during the week on a regular basis. We don't drink at home pretty much at all, ever. And so it stays to the weekends. But what we can get into rhythms of doing every Saturday night, going out and having drinks, dinners with friends, things like that. And then when it's nice out in the summer, it can creep into Friday night. So it can be Friday and Saturday night. That can be 8 drinking days a month, rather than, if it's 2 Saturdays a month, that's 2. You're cutting that. And that was more in the range that I think we were in this summer, or at least I was. Yeah. So I was more like, twice a month on a Saturday night at dinner, having drinks. We'd have trips, and then, I would drink a little bit every day. But getting into that, and then you vibrate it.
Yeah.
You recover better. You're vibrating on a higher level, just in general. You're sharper, you're dialed in all the time.
And along with aging with this, and I really probably enjoy alcohol a little more than you. But I think part of that is I'm still wired a little bit too much up here, where I just need to learn to calm down without anything. And I'm working on that. But I have all my clients take off the first 30 days from alcohol. They're really not supposed to drink at all.
Yeah, no matter what. Yeah.
Yes. And I will see in their face, when we're talking about anti-aging, it is a huge difference in their face. Like, they just look like you've taken 10 years off their age. And part of that, yes, is getting leaner, but your skin tone, everything changes. And I noticed this, if we, like, next week, we've got a big week. We've got a dinner Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. There's going to be 3 drinking days. So I'm kind of preparing for it this week. I'm always thinking about what's next. So this week, there's one day. We have Saturday that we're going to do, we're going to have some drinks. And I'm always trying to balance that out. But I do notice
it's the holiday season, so we're going to make that excuse.
Yeah. But I think drinking can get demonized. And here's the thing. I think absolutely everyone can cut back. But I think it's skipping the workout the next day. It's eating crap the next day. It's all the thing. If you can do anything in moderation, it's not that big of a deal. 100%. Just like dessert can get demonized. Well, yeah, if you have half a chocolate cake, that's not good. If you have a small slice, that's not too bad. Yep. So if you can moderate everything, I think you can enjoy it. But to your point, a little trick I'll have, and I always tell my clients this, especially when they're leaving me, you don't need to take a full month off. I used to always do large chunks, and that might not sound extreme to you, and that's fine if it doesn't, but to a lot of people that does. It sounds overwhelming, because I like to be social. I like to go out. I like to do things. So it's much more manageable for me to even take 1 weekend off. Mm-hmm. Okay, if I take this weekend off here, I'm going to feel really good, because then it's going to be 2 weeks off alcohol, because we don't drink during the week. If I can take 2 weekends off, then that's 3 weeks. And I did that, prepping. I think you're getting ready for a boxing match. I did that at some point, I think before a photo shoot, and it worked really, really well. And I felt really, really good.
In the spring, we did it for a while too.
Yeah, we did it for a month, but during that time, and I usually like to take at least a full consecutive month off, but I was kind of rethinking it this year, because during that month, I did not drink alcohol, but then I kind of traded that for, well, I'm feeling sorry for myself. I'm just going to eat this extra bullshit here. Mm-hmm. So I did that a little bit all month. So again, whatever feels extreme to you, and that is different for each person, I would encourage you not to do that so much. Yeah. So that feels extreme to me. This next year, what I'm going to try is I'm going to try to do more frequent, like 1 weekend off or 2 weekends off, but more frequently sprinkled in, and really like stay tight on my nutrition during that time. So it's like, it also, toughens you up mentally. It refines you. So it's more than just taking alcohol out. It's refining you mentally. So that's where I was a little disappointed in myself. I didn't need to do that, but I just felt a little sorry for myself and ate more. when the whole goal of this, to me, really is to refine myself a little every year where I'm like, okay, Kate, it's time to toughen up. Let's not be so soft. You can't go out to this dinner every, Friday and Saturday and have these drinks and do this and do that. Let's keep it, let's rein it in. Um, but I just wanted to address, like, I mean, you take a decent amount of supplements too, kind of supplementation, what we
Hmm.
do, what our kind of stances are on some different
Sure.
things. Um, and then I wanted to like preview what we're going to do in the spring. So I think it's kind of fitting.
Yeah, yeah. So as far as supplements, yeah, I was always really into them. Like in high school, I think it was like one of the golden ages in the late 90s and early 2000s of like early supplement marketing, like with Muscle Tech. And they'd have these huge ads of like gaining like 20 pounds in a month. And I was a skinny kid. And it was like, these huge juiced up bodybuilders. And I'm like, I bought into it. I didn't really know. I would look at those magazines and wouldn't like, well, maybe some of those guys are on like steroids, but like I would buy into like, the Cell Tech gain 20 pounds in a month, or they'd have like the Rip Fuel with the Fedra and like get
I
ripped.
did
And
all the ephedra.
yeah. So when I was a senior in high school, I started working out, and then like early in college, and I would take these supplements. I'd spend, a couple $100. I didn't have any money. I'd just spend any money I could get to get these. And they didn't really do a whole hell of a lot for me. I didn't know how to eat right and do all those things that came along with it. But I've always been into supplementation and just trying to optimize everything that I can. And then over the years, I kind of found some stuff that works for me. Currently, we did a supplement podcast a few years ago, but currently, what I've always just felt like was, and even like Joe, our old Power Hour trainer, the old school animal packs that have a ton of vitamins. You
Every
hate those.
morning.
Yeah.
It takes them about 30 minutes to choke them down.
So the animal pack vitamin packs, I typically take 5 grams of creatine a day, just for strength. And that's the most studied supplement that actually has tons of research that it is beneficial. And I do notice a difference, and it's subtle, when I'm not taking it and when I am. It's like one of those things where the fives at the end of like on your last set of back squats, like when I'm not on them, I'll leave them off. When I'm taking it, I'll put them on and they'll go up. There is like, it's like a 3 to 5% strength
Well, no,
increase
I
I
think
can
a lot of
feel.
people might not understand exactly what creatine is and how it works.
It's like it's part of like muscle meat. Um, it's something that's in steak, and your muscles store has like a creatine store. So past a certain amount, like once your muscles are saturated with it, at least from what I've learned, it doesn't really help. The straight up regular creatine monohydrate is the best source.
So it's an energy source.
Yeah,
So it's
for your muscles.
yes, yep.
Yes.
So usually we'll go like you're going to think about this when you have like multiple sets really fast. So like say you have 5 rounds of like thrusters and pull-ups, it might help you get back to round like 4 and 5 after about 90 seconds to 2 minutes. It helps replenish that energy source more readily, quicker. So all these things are not going to make or break you.
Nope.
So and I think people get too invested into supplements. This is my personal
Yep.
my personal point of view. Good old fashioned sleep, drinking water, eating healthy
Sure.
foods is by far the best way to go. But these supplements can help. I agree with the creatine.
I do whey protein shakes. And then I will mess with and have for probably the last 5 or 6 years, herbs that are supposed to help testosterone production, like ashwagandha. There's one that I'm taking that I got at Vitamin Shot called Tongat Ali. So these are just, they do have some clinical trials that they can boost or like help free like the free testosterone that's in your body. And about 5 or 6 years ago, we had a former member who worked for a blood testing company. that like test testosterone. So I got mine tested, and I tried to do it when I was feeling really good, and then got it tested, and then took some of those supplements, um, like from Vitamin Shop, like the ones that are supposed to help testosterone. Got awesome sleep. It was in the summer. Was getting the sunlight, which is supposed to help boost it up, and I was able to boost it up 100 points. And my levels were good, and this is when I was 35. So it was like they're in the 700s, and then I got them into the 800s, which is, I think, it was a good healthy range when I got it tested. Um, I haven't got it retested since that was 2017, I believe. But I do know, like, it's supposed to go down with like age and stuff. And we know people who do like HRT, which is called hormone replacement therapy. And that's a big thing now. I mean, you'll see clinics in like every other strip mall. We have a lot of friends around our age who are starting to like get involved with that. And basically what it is, you'll go to a doctor, they'll test your blood. If your hormone levels are off, they will go ahead and optimize those. Sometimes they'll kind of supra optimize those. Like,
Always.
yeah. So,
Usually.
yeah. So they'll get that testosterone number for a guy like me, maybe up into the thousands, and I'm going to like get some more muscle mass, have a lot more energy. And I've heard it's life changing in a lot of positive ways. And I don't really think, unless you're competing and you're not saying anything about it and you're trying to keep it hidden, I don't think that there's anything uh, morally or ethically wrong with it as a wellness product. My reason I haven't gone there or gone to that well is,
And women do this too. So
yeah,
I went and
yeah,
got my blood tested at a local place, and the doctor was talking to me. He's like, I was turning 40. He
mhm,
said, "What are your goals?" I'm like, "I want to be as lean as I can at 40." And he's like, "Hey, uh, they have a DEXA scan there," and so he was looking at the report of like my body fat, my lean muscle mass, and he's like, "At your age, if you wanna get any leaner, and maintain that without losing your hair, without losing your menstrual cycle, without losing all the things that basically make you a woman, you're gonna need some testosterone cream." And, I kinda take the same stance Brandon does, like, I don't think anything is horribly wrong with that. I just wanna stay as natural as long as I can, and
yep,
I also have I think I have a moral obligation if I'm doing something like that and I'm coaching clients to disclose that and let them know like, hey, I'm not just eating chicken and broccoli to get me here.
yep,
So we're kind of on the line of thinking like we're going to try to ride this out naturally as long as we can, and not that we wouldn't ever do anything, but we'll let you guys know if we do and how we feel on it. But I think that's a
sure,
common myth that everyone thinks that this is just for men. So
sure,
there's in the fitness show world, people did this for years and years, and there's not just testosterone creams women can do. Obviously, the injections, that's usually what more like the men do. But you can do estrogen blockers. There's also peptides. So this is something I'm learning a little bit more about, like not just for different, I mean, yes, for different hormones, but and then one of those that also helps with aging that would probably interest me the most as I get older is the growth hormone peptide. Um, but I really, we both kind of feel like we don't want to mess with our hormones so much because there's no free lunch. So you take one thing and it's going to throw your whole body out of whack. And just to kind of touch on this real quick too, because I think, there might be some of you out there listening that might have been in the same boat in the past. From those fitness shows, I did have a lowered metabolism. My hormones were off. And it is something that we had tested at Lifetime, and I simply let them reset through gaining a little bit of weight, maybe not having the exact body composition that I wanted for a couple years. Where there are a lot of women that I competed with that did have a low thyroid, that they were going through that struggle stage and got on hormones. None of that's wrong, but that's only going to affect your other hormones. And I
So I think what, you know, to simplify it is getting to the root cause of why maybe those levels would be suboptimal, getting into that, and it might not be a quick fix.
Yeah.
It might be months.
Like
It might
6
be
months to a year. It
might be
was a
6
couple
months of
years for
like
me.
getting sleep,
Yeah.
calming down workouts, doing a lot of those stuff to get everything optimized. It might be things like the meditations
Mhm.
and all of
Mhm.
getting all of that going and flowing in the right way. Rather in my thought, especially if it's for wellness, propping it up with like supercharged gasoline to blast through like, well, I only get 4 hours of sleep a night. So, your hormones aren't going to be optimized when you're like that. So I'm going to go ahead and take this medication that's going to make me feel better on 4 hours of sleep. Like
Adderall.
well, whatever it is,
Yeah.
at some point, like the nuts and bolts on the ride are going to start shaking off, and you're going to be like, playing whack-a-mole with like, oh, acne popped up on my back. Whatever it is,
Right.
when you start playing that game,
Right.
I don't know. That being said, it's funny because we are and before we kind of wrap this up, we're getting deep into this podcast. Um, it's not so much like, we have this huge ethical uh, disagreement with doing it. We're gonna go down to Colombia in the spring and get stem cells at BioCore Accelerator, which is it's intravenous, and then we'll get them in our joints to help repair the wear and tear in our joints.
Not in every joint. You can select what joints you want.
Yep. So we're gonna get them in joints that have bothered us to try and help repair them. Like I have shoulder issues. Like I haven't done like ring muscle ups was my favorite thing to do, and I haven't really done them in a year because I tore a pec, and it just like really bothers me when I do them now. Um, you've had some knee issues.
Ankle.
Yeah,
And
we have all these orthopedic issues that they're okay, but like they will nag us and this and that. So to get more juice and more life out of us, we're gonna go do this almost in lieu of maybe a HRT or something. So again, we're doing things that are trying to like things that are outside the realm of like food and eating. This is going to be the first thing we've really tried like this.
Yeah.
But I'm excited, and I we'll kind of document the whole thing. And
No, we're just here to debate and kind of just throw in our 2 cents. And, it's something we've talked about that really interests us, all these other modalities. And, basically like any life hack, there's always going to be like, I get Botox in my face every 3 months, like to that day. I will probably always do that. I do the BBL laser, but I think it's neat when people are really transparent about what they're doing, and then it's just not like this mystery, like, why doesn't Kate have wrinkles in her forehead? Well, look at me in a couple months right before my Botox appointment, they'll come back, and I just want to be really transparent about that because I find it interesting, and I appreciate when other people share with me, because I'm like, oh, that's neat. Like, okay, they're not trying to keep this as their secret or whatever. Um, but yeah, so that's what we're doing. And then in addition to that, we're also getting our face and scalp is supposed to help with like hair regrowth. I'm even going to have my eyebrows done because I know I'm sure there's going to be going here in a little bit where instead of like microblading, maybe, the stem cells will help that natural growth. But just kind of share this stuff with you and what we do personally, and it's like a whole wellness thing. So not that this needs to become a beauty podcast or anything, but that goes along with health and wellness. And, let's face it, most of us want to also look good if we're here working out 6 days a week.
Sure.
So, we're just I just want to share like our overall regimens. And along with my Reiki that I get once a month, that woman also does facials. So I'm very religious about the facials, the body work, of Botox, all this stuff, and it gets to be a lot. And that's where I have to watch where I'll get obsessive. Like I get my nails done once a month. I don't want that to take up 90% of my day, so I have to watch that too because that can also just eat up my day, and then I'm not really enjoying any of it. I'm just doing my entire day to kind of look a certain way. So it's to kind of keep everything in balance so you can live a full life. That's what we're trying to do. And not that you might have that same balance, but just kind of sharing with you where we struggle, where we pull back, where we push. And there's different times of year for that. Like every time I get ready for a trip, I'm always going to make sure I have my hair done, my nails done, a facial, whatever. Um, get new fresh Botox and go and just kind of share that here and let you know what we like, what we don't like. I'll get BBL next Monday, so you guys might see me on Friday. I'll let you know, like, if it my skin starts to flake off, but that's something that usually takes about a month to regenerate your skin, and it just helps your whole, like, skin tone. It takes care of, like, skin like, sunspots like this one here. But the gen it's just a more natural kind of, like, anti-aging process, to maybe, like, filler. Botox, of course, is not really natural at all, but I definitely will still do that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, we're excited about the stem cells. I'm a little nervous, but it's a week-long process. It's pretty intensive.
They'll give us some MRIs while we're down there. I
Yeah.
think they do a hyperbaric chamber where it's that tons of oxygen. They do
You can opt for like physical
they
therapy,
do like the
nutrition.
IV drip vitamins like
Yeah.
they do around the corner. So they give you a whole wellness experience while you're down there. And then I got into it and it got on my radar through Joe Rogan's show where he's had like Mel Gibson was on there with his dad who was like 100 or you talked about his dad. It's like keeping his dad alive who's 100 years old. And, um, it's like an anti-aging thing. And then all my favorite like old pro wrestling guys and like UFC fighters who are just destroyed their body, like Steve-O from Jackass. All those guys are going down there and getting it. The Buttery Bros were down there getting it done from CrossFit. And so I keep seeing all these guys on their Instagram and eventually how that marketing works is
And this is
we start looking
yeah,
into it and I'm
yeah,
like, this could be a really cool thing. And so we actually saved money up for it for 2
yeah. I was
years.
just gonna say
So
that. Yeah, this isn't
it's not a
something.
cheap
Yeah,
thing. It's
yeah.
expensive. So we saved up money for a couple years to go do this. And um, I'm excited. I want to be able to squeeze some more juice out of like this body and basically just try to optimize what I've got. And I'd love it if it gives me like pain-free ring muscle ups back, gives me some more energy. I want to compete in boxing again next fall. And keep doing these things in my 40s and just stay young and live this big, full, vibrant life as long as I can. And that's our job now is trying to figure this stuff out and then pass this down to you guys and show you what works for us and keep learning new things. We're in it for life and this is like what we're passionate about. And we're in it too, just doing the same stuff that you guys are doing and trying to like go out there and figure stuff out, find some stuff that does work, that doesn't, throw out that doesn't work. And then anything that's like really working well, like bring this to you guys and say, hey, this is where it's at. Like this really helped us. So if you guys listen to this and have any questions, like, stop us in the gym, shoot us an email, hit us up on Instagram, and we'll let you know what we're doing. And we're excited to kind of document this. But yeah, we'll talk to you guys next week.